sees the memes of production, and the like and subscribe button. Remember all the Dems in chat that didn't believe you that Trump could be better on Israel? Well, keep in mind, my argument that Trump might be better on Israel in like a broader consequential sense is that by being incompetent and laundering the topic poorly from 2020 onward, he might have just like not been able to command as much support or consensus as Joe Biden. But that's actually not what's happened. It's not a matter of incompetent support for Netanyahu. It's the fact that, like, unironically, the Gulf states literally just jangled some keys in front of Trump and he wandered over to them. Also, Trump very clearly wants to be known as a peacemaker, a deal maker, etc. Man, it really does make me think that if Trump had won in 2020, he might have been a lot harsher on Netanyahu, because in like the first 3 weeks, he would have been like, yeah, do whatever you need to. And then afterwards, he would have been like, all right, I'm bored of this news cycle. Let's wrap it up. Peacetime. Like, he wouldn't have had the patience for years and years of deflecting and lying to benefit Israel, because he doesn't care. He doesn't care enough. You know? Do you think this pivot will affect Trump's numbers? Nope! Because as the Democrats have yet to learn, voters will go along with basically anything you have to say as long as you have a compelling reason. Literally, you just need to make the argument for them. That's it. And because the right wing controls the government and media and social media and everything, also, no one in America cared to begin with. The vast majority of supporters of Israel in America are people who are just passively following the line that was put forward by the status quo, right? The establishment. You know, this Hamas terrorists, safe haven for Jews, whatever. Right, it's not like ideological commitment. That's a small fraction of the population. Democrats are doubling down on Israeli support. Yeah, because support for Israel is like, essentially, it's like a flag for status quo, neoliberal, Western military hegemony support, right? What the Democrats are positioning themselves to basically be like, don't you like it when things were normal? Don't you like it when things worked the way they're supposed to? Neoliberalism and unquestioned support for Israel to continue supplying contracts to the MIC. Like that, if Trump moves from Israel, that just gives the Democrats even more of an opportunity to essentially pitch the argument like, well, hey, remember us? And Netanyahu, you didn't appreciate who you had when you had him. Biden was your best ally. New Jersey congressional candidate Michael Roth says he wants to be a strong pro-Israel voice for a new generation. And former Small Business Administration head. Wow, what a shock. You're telling me this youthful populist voice who just happens to support Israel is also steeped in corporate money? Oh man. Incredible. I wouldn't have guessed it. Do you think they'll now say Trump's being anti-Semitic? Well, Trump is an anti-Semite, but not for not supporting Israel. But will they? Nah, probably not. That'd be like uncivil or something. Also, if we get a presidential campaign cycle where a Democratic centrist accuses Trump of being anti-Semitic for not sufficiently supporting Israel, I'm going to crash the f out and vote for the Green Party. Just to let you guys know. How can they see it as anything but political poison to this point? They don't care. They're wealthy whether or not they win. Also, they talk to consultants and lobbyists, not to you. The fact that at this point the majority of Democratic voters don't support Israel is irrelevant to them, because they have never represented the interests of the people. Republicans represent the interests of their people more, at least their perceived interests, more than Democrats do, because Republicans actually work to manufacture consent and Democrats don't. Democrats tried to with Israel and they half-assed even that, which is why most of the party base turned away from Israel over the course of Biden's term. This man's grandfather, who never fully told his story, lost his siblings and his mother in the before moving to Israel and fighting for the Israeli War of Independence. Oh, fantastic. You mean the 1948 Arab-Israeli War? Okay, yeah. Yeah. Holy shit, the new Israel striking Iran wasn't even communicated by Israel? What do you mean the new? What do you mean the new striking of Iran by Israel? What are you referring to? This? Oh, the preparing to strike. That's a different thing, but, you know. U.S. intel suggests Israel preparing strike in Iran's nuclear facility. Oh, dude, go for it, man. This might actually give Trump a good excuse to really like lay the heat on. F it, whatever. After being explicitly told not to engage in any strikes in Iran because the Trump administration is currently working on some kind of accord with Iran. If our intelligence agencies find out they're trying to do it anyway, oh no, please. Citing multiple U.S. officials familiar with the intel. Let me try to find the original CNN reporting on that one.
U.S. officials have obtained new intelligence suggesting Israel is making preparations to strike Iranian nuclear facilities. These officials caution it is not clear Israeli leaders have made a final decision and there is deep disagreement within the U.S. government about the likelihood of such an attack. However, the U.S. assessment is based on both intercepted Israeli communications and on Israeli military activity, including the movement of air munitions and completion of an air exercise.
Sounds like they're planning to do it to me. Whether or not our government thinks they're doing it is irrelevant. The intel is new.
One person familiar with the U.S. intelligence on these issues told us, quote, the chance of an Israeli strike on an Iranian nuclear facility
I told you, did I not tell you 5 minutes ago that Israel would get crazier and crazier? This is what happens when a rogue state loses its backing. Why even leak this info? Who's leaking it? Our intelligence agencies intercepted their communications. They're not leaking it. American intel is leaking it to CNN as a way of dissuading Israel from doing this. Saber rattling? It's not saber rattling. They saber rattle all the time in their press and their statements, okay? It's not saber rattling. It's preparing to strike.
It's gone up significantly in recent
Netanyahu wants war with Iran.
months. And the prospect of a Trump-negotiated U.S.-Iran deal that does not remove all of Iran's uranium makes the chance of a strike more likely. My sources tonight: Jamil Jaffer, founder of the National Security Institute at George Mason University, former senior counsel to the House Intelligence Committee, and Sabrina Singh, former deputy Pentagon press secretary and now a CNN contributor. Good to have you both here. Sabrina, would Israel strike Iran over U.S. objections? And we should be clear, President Trump has sometimes threatened military action as well, but there's been some reporting that he does not want to see a war in the Middle East.
I think that's very clear that the president has made that he does not want to see a war in the Middle East. And I think if Israel were to strike Iran's nuclear facilities or capabilities, not only would that widen the perspective of war or prospect of war, but that also just flies in the face of what this administration is looking to accomplish with Iran, which is this tentative nuclear deal. At this moment, though, of course, Israel is viewing Iran as politically, militarily, and economically weakened. So they're seeing this as a chance to further weaken their capabilities. But again, that's really going to widen the aperture for potential war in the Middle East.
The goal of this has to bring American boots over there, right? The hope from Netanyahu's perspective and what he's gambling on is that a war with Iran would lead to further Western support. It would allow him to continue the conflict and keep the West supporting him, because even if the West doesn't support what he's doing to the Palestinians, they will support Israel against Iran, because no one likes Iran.
An Israeli source told me, Jamil, that the Israeli position is essentially, if the U.S. were to make a deal that's a bad deal in their eyes, that just gives up too much and allows Iran to maintain too much of a nuclear program from the Israeli objective, then they might very well strike. Is that Israel's concern here, that Trump may so want a deal that he would basically resurrect, remember JCPOA?
Well, this is exactly the problem, right?
Yeah.
I think the problem is that you saw Steve Witkoff in the Middle East a few weeks ago talking about allowing Iran to have 3.67% enriched uranium. That's a huge problem that looks a lot like the Obama nuclear deal that Trump got rid of. And
it's not a huge problem. There's nothing wrong with Iran having uranium that's being enriched for like energy purposes.
Israel's was completely opposed to a deal that looks like that. They don't want that. So now you see Witkoff back in the Middle East. You see the president also saying no enrichment, right? Something Marco Rubio had said a few weeks back and had been in contrast to the rest of the administration. So we'll see what happens. But you got the Supreme Leader saying,
why would Trump rip up the Iranian deal and recreate it needlessly? Because he wants credit for it. That's it. Literally, that's it. It's the easiest psychological read in the world. It's all psychology.
We're not doing a deal without enrichment. So now you've got the two countries at odds. Israel might be actually using this opportunity to message to the U.S., don't do a bad deal.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it could. I mean, there's always an element of signaling in all this.
I love the implication from this dipshit that it's legitimate for Israel to threaten to spark a war in the Middle East as a negotiating tool to try to force us, a real country, not a pithy, half-assed, fake settler colonial state that was founded less than a century ago, like they get to dictate the terms of the deal. Oh, sorry, America, isn't there someone you forgot to ask? And it's your insane nuclear rogue state that you've been irrationally funding for decades. Jesus Christ. Oh, Israel's just trying to make sure that we get a good deal. Israel.
Let's game this out. If Israel were to go ahead and strike, how would Iran be likely to respond?
I mean, they are severely weakened militarily, and not only Iran, but their proxy groups. I mean, Hezbollah in the
no. I mean, Iran doesn't really have the capabilities to invade Israel, not meaningfully, but in terms of resisting an invasion, I don't think that America would succeed in invading Iran, not long term at least. Certainly not Israel. Israel's been exhausting a lot of its munitions fighting literally nobody. Like it's been using so much ammunition and so much ordnance destroying civilians. I mean, there's no way.
north has basically been decimated by the Israeli military. Of course, Hamas has been completely
What the f is this propaganda? What the f?
and not only Iran, but their proxy groups. I mean, Hezbollah in the north has basically been decimated by the Israeli military.
No, they haven't. Hezbollah entrenched their positions like north of the border between Lebanon and Israel. And yeah, obviously Hezbollah isn't as equipped as the IDF, but decimated? Maybe if you mean that in the literal sense, decimate is in remove 10% of the thing.
Of course, Hamas has.
She did used to work for the State Department. What's her name? Sabrina Singh, administrator and former deputy Pentagon press secretary. Fantastic. Special assistant to the president and deputy press secretary for Vice President Kamala Harris in the Biden administration. Gotcha. Yeah.
Been completely, I would say destroyed, even though, Israel continues to conduct operations against Hamas leadership. And then they're
like these are the same. This bitch is the same person who lied to us throughout Biden's term about how every new red line that Israel crossed was actually like not ever a red line, and you're anti-Semitic for suggesting that it was.
proxy groups are significantly
like unironically, like these people are Israel's strongest soldiers. These people, dude, more so than the fascists. It's crazy. Fascist isolationism is actually making the fascists more in favor of peace and against Jews than the average, like, liberal status quo median. And keep in mind, none of this is ideological. The fascists would gladly conduct a genocide on our soil. They just don't care about this one.
weakened in Syria and Iraq, and you're also seeing the Houthis also pulling back their capabilities. So Iran, on its world stage is not the same power that it was before October 7th. And I think Israel sees that and is trying to take advantage of that. But I think certainly that flies in the face of what the Trump administration is trying to accomplish.
Would the U.S. be in danger?
Oh my God, dude. Oh my God. Dude, this is like unironic deep state shit, man.
If Israel were to strike, in danger of retaliation, could we assume that Iran would calculate whether the U.S. was directly involved or not, that indeed the U.S. was involved or gave some sort of green or yellow light?
Wouldn't we, though? No, there's nothing Iran can do to the United States. Not meaningfully, no. We're in no danger at all. The threat in a war between Israel and Iran is almost entirely caused by Israel because of Israel's lunatic Samson option. The fact that they're a nuclear state. Not to mention the destabilization of the Middle East at large and of Iranian trading partners and of the Red Sea and of just like a nightmare that Israel would be causing.
Light to this operation.
I think that's exactly right. I think you'd see terrorist attacks around the globe. Iran would activate its networks, weakened though they are, around the globe.
I can't believe it. I'm going to become a MAGA communist. I can't believe this shit, man. I can't believe you get all these Jamil Jaffer, founder and executive director of the National Security Institute. These are literally like deep state ghouls. It's not even a joke. Like these are literally the representatives of the neoliberal Western hegemon security state that will fund like an indefinite forever war. Because the only thing these people hate more than Muslims is the American voter.
Globe, including the United States, we know that Iran has tried to undertake actual, murder attacks in the United States against U.S. officials and the like, against Saudi officials. So we know they think they're trying to establish a capacity here. Whether they'll be successful or not is a different question, but they certainly will try to lash out. The biggest challenge for Israel, though, is how much of the Iran nuclear program can you actually get to? They don't have the U.S. massive ordnance penetrator, a 30,000-pound bomb. We're not likely to give it to them, or the B-2 Spirit that would deliver it. And so they're going to have to undertake, probably some commando missions along with bombing strikes and a huge variety of attacks in order to really do damage. And even that is only a few years of stalling, right? And so that's, I think, the hardest part for Israel is if you take it out, how much can you get of it? They might still do it. I mean, they've taken out the air defenses. They've taken out Syria's air defenses. But it's a stalling game at the end of the day for them. And
they've carried out quite aggressive operations, for instance, inside Syria, right, including a ground element. Jamil, Sabrina, thanks so much to both of you.
Israel tonight.
That's great, man. carrying out ground operations in Syria and carrying out ground operations in nuclear facilities in Iran, probably about as difficult as one another, you know? Probably about the same. Probably got the security like more or less on par between those two. Does he want to give B-2s to Israel? It certainly seemed like he was implying that. He was like, well, unfortunately, Israel doesn't have our super sick ultra bunker buster bombs. So, you know, like until we give them some, what are they gonna do?
Making preparations for a possible strike on Iran's nuclear facilities. This is according to
By the way, notice how not once did any of those people say, hey, it's kind of weird how Israel is breaking its word and threatening to attack Iran while we, the United States, are in the middle of diplomatic talks with them. These American news officials, at no point does this cross their mind like, oh, isn't that a little bit, I don't know, crazy that this supposed ally of ours would do that? Oh yeah, Israel's just warning America not to accept too many concessions in its deal. Warning us!
Intelligence obtained by the U.S. It is a brazen, dangerous move that would signal a major break with the Trump administration.
Hold on, lady. That's anti-Semitic. You can't say that. Over here at CNN, when we consult with our experts, asterisk, by experts we mean like deep state ghouls who have been assembled to, you know, permanently entrench Western hegemony. According to them, there's nothing wrong at all with this. I don't know why you're saying it's out of the ordinary.
And obviously could lead to a much wider war.